Another domino falls. The Arizona Cardinals hire Nathaniel Hackett as offensive coordinator. What does it mean in the grand scheme of things? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast platform. New news today. Arizona Cardinals hired Nathaniel Hackett yesterday, has some ties to the LaFleur family, has been around the NFL for quite some time. There's a lot to break down. Is this enough, quote, old blood for coordinators? At being in his mid-40s, late 40s, is that enough experience to where you can bring in a younger DC to couple with Mike LaFleur moving forward? We'll discuss it. More, some insight on Nathaniel Hackett. I went and did a little research. Yes, I do research from time to time. I'll pull up a shot of the offenses and the points per game ranks that were collated with specific years when Nathaniel Hackett was offensive coordinator. There are some nuances to that I'll discuss in the second segment and kind of see if there's actual direct correlatives to his past history with the Cardinals moving forward. But they've got a new OC, and that's the news of the day. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the final crossover Thursday of the year and Prize Picks. Crossover Thursday is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. So the Cardinals have their guy on the offensive side of the ball. Let's take the grown part of this story first. Failed miserably 1 year as the head coach of the Denver Broncos. Failed equally as miserably, for the most part, when he moved over to the Jets to be grouped again with Aaron Rodgers. That was the bad stuff. Okay, that's the recency bias. That's the what the hell is this guy doing here? That's the Sean Payton made fun of him as he was walking out the door, giving his walking papers, which, it's a Sean Payton thing. He's kind of a bully. But overwhelmingly, this is much more benign and positive than directly negative as correlated to the future of the Arizona Cardinals offense. And while this seems abstract, it's not. While this seems not dollars and cents, not between the lines, but between the lines stuff, it's not. It's bigger than that. The Cardinals have a motor on offense that's ready. It's not ready like it was last year with questions surrounding the quarterback position. It's not a motor that was ready with James Conner 2 years ago, with Trey Benson as a rookie. It's not that. But what this is a collection of, coupled with great talent, good talent, and average talent, #analysis, that given the right offensive scheme and direction and play calling can pop. We know that. We've said that since Marv was drafted. So what Nathaniel Hackett brings in is familiarity. What Nathaniel Hackett brings in is comfort. And this isn't something where it's like, you're cradling a first-time head coach and he needs his safety blankie to be able to do his job properly. No. In this world of NFL coaching, it's all about who you know and who you feel comfortable with walking shoulder to shoulder into games. That's what it is. Nathaniel Hackett's best years were in this role with Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. Now, of course, they had Aaron Rodgers in his prime, had Devontae Adams, had a very good team offensively. And I'll show the numbers, and you can see the huge pinnacle of Nathaniel Hackett's offensive coordinator career was those years in Green Bay, one of which they had the #1 overall scoring offense points per game. For Mike LaFleur, this is that exhale. For Mike LaFleur, this is what we were waiting for the first domino to fall with the Cardinals naming a head coach. It's the, okay. So now I've got somebody in the room who I trust, who's been in this league a long time, and I know that most recently he hasn't been painted in the best of light. The last couple of years, He hasn't even been, in with any sort of relevancy. I think he was a defensive quality coordinator with Green Bay last year. Or, and then he was, had a conversation in Miami also. So or 2 years ago, and then Miami. So he's been around the game a long time, and you can't be gainfully employed in the NFL if you don't have some sort of substance to offer. Nepotism and all that stuff aside, Nathaniel Hackett ain't coaching in the NFL in any form or fashion if he doesn't have something to provide. And I know that sounds like another hashtag analysis in the last 3 minutes, but it's true. So these are things where you're starting to see shifts from the last regime choices, but not the meteoric ones that we saw from BA to Steve Wilks to Cliff to JG to Mike LaFleur. It's like, I know it's offense, defense, offense, but this isn't like taking this massive swing. This guy's, Mike LaFleur's coached in the NFC West for 7 years. Yeah, he had a couple bad years with the Jets, numbers-wise, but, the quarterback play wasn't great there either. And now you bring in a guy who can be part of the brain trust, who he trusts, which is just another thing that Mike LaFleur doesn't have to worry about. And this is, I know it's advisory. He's not going to be calling the plays, all of those things. But he knows the offense. He knows what's worked and what hasn't. He's been able, and this is most importantly for me, and I'll get into the inside a little bit more. That was the day and age where Davante Adams was always open. Didn't matter. He was always open. My stat one year, I think it was 2021. I think it was 2021. It was a while ago, where Davante Adams had more red zone receptions than DeAndre Hopkins had targets in the red zone. I think that was the stat. And Nathaniel Hackett he was over there. So if you want to highlight receivers, if you want to highlight your top guys, they only really did that with him because, there wasn't a backup dancer there who could, carry his weight. Since Jordy Nelson and Davante Adams, there wasn't really a 1-2 punch over there. It was pretty much just Davante and their run game. So when I saw the hire, the first thing I thought was barf bag. It's like, what? Come on. This is the best they can do. And then you start to do the math backwards. It's like, okay, this makes sense. It makes sense. It's much more benign than it looks like. And it's really only going to be a positive for Mike LaFleur, selfishly from our end, to where he's going to have that safety net for his first head coaching role. Now, do you bring in another vet to run the defense? That's going to be in the final segment. Looking back on it over the last, it hasn't even been a day that it dropped. It's a could be worse situation. He was with Matt for 3 years, LaFleur. This is something where if he wants retribution, if he wants to save face and make another name for himself so he can be an OC somewhere else, let alone, maybe a head coach somewhere else, this is as important of a job for him as any. Because there's so much unknown. There's so much. It's just raw dough. This can be molded into anything. And if Mike and Nathaniel can put together an offense, obviously with Mike leading the charge, we could be talking about a completely different Arizona Cardinals team. I know all of these are in theoreticals. All of these are in hypotheticals. But overall, after gagging, when I saw the name initially with woof. Now, okay, I guess this makes sense for the first baby steps necessary to build a strong foundation for a new head coach in this league. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. What's more insight about Nathaniel Hackett? I'm going to bring some numbers up. How some matter, some don't, but numbers nonetheless. We'll discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. There's one game left, man. There's one game left. It's final call. One final Sunday. One last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everybody's been waiting for. And this is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. So if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by ZocDoc. It's hard to find doctors sometimes, man. It's hard. It's like sometimes finding a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network nearby and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly. And that kind of doctor exists. Finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties, from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. And whether you want to go in person or do a video visit, ZocDoc makes it easy either way. You can also read verified patient reviews so you can feel confident choosing a doctor you'll actually like. Stop putting off the doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, man. Also, the Everydayers Club. We've got more and more people joining. The link is in the description. And, ad-free audio content, members only, Discord. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. You want to stay tuned in, interact with me on the daily. It's going to be fun. Join in. So Nathaniel Hackett, Arizona Cardinals, new offensive coordinator. This is not what I used to say when the last regime was here, I guess 2 regimes ago. Sweet mother, I've been doing this a long time. Was any step that's not a step backward is a step forward. This is not a step backwards. It's not going to be a guy who's going to be calling plays. It's not going to be a guy who's going to have any sort of real impact play-to-play on the offense, but it's a guy that Mike LaFleur trusts. They travel together, there are reports. The Hacketts and both the LaFleur brothers and their families travel with the Hacketts. Like, this isn't like a good old boys club where old natty boy needs a job. So Mike is going to be like, yeah, man, come join me. Let's all make some money and then get fired in 2 years. No, that's not what this is. It's a safety net, but it's a good thing. Like, this isn't training wheels. This isn't training wheels. This is a driving instructor. It's not training wheels that Nathaniel Hackett brings in. It's a guy who's, Mike LaFleur's got his learner's permit. He needs somebody else with that brake. Sometimes a wheel in the passenger seat. Sometimes a wheel. It was just a brake for me. Sometimes a wheel. I don't know how those work. I don't know how 2 wheels work. Doesn't matter. Let me bring these up because this is important just for context. Nathaniel Hackett didn't call the offensive plays at every spot that he was OC or head coach for that matter with the Raiders in 2022. So I'm bringing this up. He's been an OC on and off from 2013 through 2024. Okay. Through his first 3 years in Buffalo and Jacksonville, didn't have a points per game higher than 18th. Was 6th in 2017 with Jacksonville, dead last in 2018, and then 2019, 2020, and 2021, 14th, 1st, and 10th. And then with Denver, they were last in offense with him and Russell Wilson. And then the Jets in 2023 and 2024 with the Travis Sham mockery of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers popped Achilles, all those quarterbacks and everything like that. It's not great, but LaFleur is calling the plays, and it's experience, okay? It's been over 10 years. Let's focus on the 3 years in Green Bay. The Arizona Cardinals do not have Aaron Rodgers in his prime, okay? Strike one against comparing to that. That was Nathaniel Hackett under Matt LaFleur in this same setup. The Packers haven't had the best offensive talent ever until Aaron Rodgers got traded or until Aaron Rodgers went away, which is kind of funny. It was Devontae Adams. It was a run game. It was a little tight end, and it was Aaron Rodgers magic. There's a lot of Equanimeous St. Browns out there. Like it wasn't rainbows and butterflies for Aaron Rodgers. It was a lot of Devontae Adams. But the beauty of that is, unlike what Drew Petzing had, where it's like, oh, well, hold on, wait, you're telling me that Nathaniel Hackett, they were only able to feature one guy with Matt LaFleur's offense? Uh-oh. What have we done? Oh, no. No. They survived with that and thrived with that. They survived and thrived with that. It was something that, so in 2021, Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and an old Randall Cobb. Equanimeous St. Brown was there, I told you. Not the star-studded wide receiver group that you think would have the top points per game. That was 2020, but it was the same roster. Top points per game in the NFL. Yeah, they ran it back. Randall Cobb wasn't even on that team in 2020. So it's like, that is a good thing. This isn't like, oh, they could only, manufacture looks for one guy. No. So this isn't going to be like, oh, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Michael Wilson are on the field all the same time. Nope. Only one of them is going to get the touches. Nope. Only two of them are going to get the touches. That's not that. They were able to survive with one receiver and a bunch of way backup dancers. Pretty damn good. They had a good defense too, which helps. But Nathaniel Hackett, with what matters most for the Arizona Cardinals, in all sincerity, the best years where he was OC not calling the plays was not only with Mike's older brother, but also were the best 3 years of his career outside of Jacksonville in 2017. That's a positive. If you're looking just at numbers, I'm not a creature to just look at numbers and make that my opinion. I never have been. This just backs up the fact that the proof has already been there. I know it's 5 years ago. I know. And I know it's Matt LaFleur. I know it's Aaron Rodgers. I know this isn't that. I know it's not this, directly. But any step that's not a step backward is a step forward. That's one of these. It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left. Sorry, I can't. Once in a while. When you look at the body of work of Nathaniel Hackett's, all that matters, really, are the Green Bay years. That's where he was given a situation to succeed, and he also didn't call the plays. So, Jacoby Brissett, not Aaron Rodgers. Whoever they draft or trade for in 2027, probably not going to be Aaron Rodgers' level where he was an MVP in 2020. In all of those years, he could have been MVP. I know that. So, obviously, that takes us down multiple rungs of the ladder. It could be argued the Arizona Cardinals have more talent on this offense than Aaron Rodgers did. Could definitely make that argument. A lot of it is unproven with Marv, but you add a right tackle, maybe a right guard, see what happens with the running back room, and you've got LaFleur in his blood. Nathaniel Hackett already been through it with some sort of semblance of this offense. That's concrete. That's concrete. That's not, abstract where it's like, oh, yeah, so 25 years ago this happened, and it happened for 6 games. So let's take that with all of the, all of the heavy weight that it's going to be translated again. No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that of all of the years that he's been in OC or been a part of an offense, the best 3 years combined were with a LaFleur. Yeah. That holds weight, in my opinion. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Is that enough old blood? All offseason, or during, well, I guess all offseason, what it's been. It's not even the offseason yet. For the Cardinals offseason, which was what? It's like week 12. Since they let go of Jonathan Gannon, the one big thing I've said, you got to bring in experienced dudes at coordinators. Maybe one, maybe both. I was thinking more of like an old head to call the defense. Is Nathaniel Hackett in the late 40s enough, quote, old blood to where you can bring in a younger DC to head coach the defense? There's some interesting names that aren't Wink Martindale that have been, leaked, that have been talked about since yesterday. Discuss them next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed's all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put the post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for the show, I go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I want. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. And instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. And according to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. Using Indeed sponsored jobs, listeners of this show can get a $75 job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time where a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make, and that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees full conversation threads, which makes replies faster and more personal. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNFL. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNFL. Quo. No missed calls. No missed customers. YouTube channel. Subscribe. Notifications. Big dumb face. Everydayers Club. Yeah. Do they need to bring in another old dude? Do they need to bring in another old dude, guys and gals? Everydayers, P1s, first-time listeners. What do you think? I don't know. The Wink Martindale thing fascinated me because of how he uses blitzes and how much talent, athletic talent the Cardinals have on the defensive side of the ball, and how I think this could be not PTSD, more like this is kind of what I've been waiting for, not just for the defense, not for the team, just the organization as a whole, to grab things by the cojones and go. Grab things by the cojones and be proactive. Don't be reactive. Being proactive by blitzing all the time makes other teams' offenses be reactive. It forces opportunities for the Card to turn the ball over and all the things like that. With that said, there are a couple names that have been floated from Rap Sheet and Mike Garafolo. Cardinals requested an interview with Rams defensive pass game coordinator Aubrey Pleasant, up and coming defensive mind in this league. Jamil Douglas, who is co-host of mine on the Cardinal Squad Show, raved about this dude. Raved about this dude in the squad show when we were talking after we stopped recording, all that stuff. Loves this guy. Young name. Another one, Mike Garafolo reported the Cardinals requested to interview Texans DB coach Dino Vasso. Another, vet secondary coach who could come in and revamp this defense. Being any sort of part of that Houston Texans secondary would be beneficial for the Cardinals. But the question remains, is Nathaniel Hackett enough experience? Is it enough? Do you want to go innovative over experience? And both those guys, Aubrey Pleasant and Vasso, have experience, but not 30 years experience. Maybe combined. Do you go innovative or do you go experience? Mike LaFleur, innovative, no experience. Like really no experience at the role. It's just factual at this point. He has no experience being the head coach. Do you want to bring in a guy who's been in DC before? Begs the question, well, if he's available for a job, was he that good of a DC? Good question. It's a good question. I think the fit here, and I'm going to talk about this, the majority of this, tomorrow, among some other things, but at this point, do you just say bleep it and go innovative? Do you just take a swing like Mike LaFleur? Nathaniel Hackett's not a swing. Do you take a swing on defense too and say, you know what? If this works, the Cardinals could be atop the NFC West in 2 or 3 years? If you take a swing and it works, there are no metrics or algorithms or models that could determine the ceiling for this team. Because the Cardinals have taken swings, but they haven't worked. Do you take a swing on Aubrey Pleasant? You bring the Rams. Rams defense wasn't fantastic on the back end for a good chunk of last year. I know that, they are I think their bottom 3 least expensive defense. And they relied on their front to put pressure, to get pressure, to force opportunities for the secondary. Do you bring in a guy who was DB coach for the best defense in football? Or do you bring in a guy who has been around the block 100 times, like a Wink Martindale, to add some calm? Be the head coach of the defense. Done this before. It's going to be good. That's called the tease, ladies and gentlemen. We'll discuss that first segment tomorrow. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.